Okay, Keggers here with my honest review of Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Okay, now here's the thing with this movie. Is it good? Yeah. Is it bad? No, it is most certainly not a bad film. I've seen bad films, and this is not a bad film. It is enjoyable. I've actually gotten more than a few laughs, actual real laughs out of this film. But it is not a perfect film. And to explain why it's not a perfect film, let's get started at the very beginning. Now, the very beginning is really about how in the hell does this thing exist? I mean, we all saw the trailers for the original Sonic the Hedgehog film. That thing looked like a complete and utter nightmare, a mess of a film. But they managed to scrape together and come out with something that was actually enjoyable. And because of that, because of Jim Carrey, because of the changes in the character designs, because of the slight change in the tone apparently, they came up with something passable and acceptable. And for fans of video game movies, that's kind of all we really wanted. But now we are in Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and we have Tails being introduced after the ending scene of the previous movie. We also have Knuckles. Knuckles, who over the years has been sort of relegated to the side as everything became about Sonic and Shadow being the big rival character. But I remember when Knuckles was the big guy. Knuckles was the super important side special rival character for Sonic. And this movie is a treat for all those people who remember that version of Knuckles. We have Eggman, who's been trapped in another dimension ever since the ending of the previous movie, and somehow makes his way back to Earth, with our characters and Sonic trying to figure out exactly what type of hero and how he's going to be a hero. He comes into conflict with Knuckles and the search for the Master Emerald. A lot of this film seems to be built off of trying to fix what was kind of wrong with the previous movie. You see, James Marsden's character as the Donut Lord took up a lot of screen time in the previous film, and a lot like what happened with Dave from the Chipmunks movies, he's been relegated to very much the B plot. They get him out of the way very quickly so that they can focus on Sonic and Tails and their adventures with Robotnik and Knuckles. In many ways, this is a very, very small, tiny film where it's just Sonic and Tails on their adventures to try and find the Master Emerald and being chased down by Knuckles. And in that, it's kind of a lot of fun seeing them go on this adventure, seeing them interact with some other people. But the biggest problem is it doesn't really feel like they are present in most of the scenes. The CGI for the films is good for the character designs, but everything is lacking in weight. It never feels like the characters are actually in any of the scenes that they're in. There's very little interaction with the environment. There's not a lot of picking up things. There's not a lot of maneuvering the physical world around them in something like, I'm sorry to go back to this, but the great example of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, where every single character seemed to have weight and depth and exist in the same plane as the human characters. You never really see the people and the characters truly interact. Sonic will be standing on like a blank background or a dance floor or something, but he won't quite interact with the physical objects in that space. Is that something which takes away from the movie? I mean, it doesn't take away from the story, but it does kind of affect Sonic not really being a real character. Sonic, as a character, is trying to be a hero, but he seems to be kind of a bumbling, trying to find his purpose and his place, and that's what Tails does in here. Tails gives him a purpose as the big older brother. because for some reason Sonic's a kid in these movies rather than the sort of like teenager with attitude type character he is in the games and the other shows and whatnot. I'm okay with this. I'm okay with the changes that they've made to the character. I'm okay with a lot of that stuff because he's still a fun character. He's just not Sonic, but he's still fun. James Marsden and his wife have been relegated to the solid B plot. They get knocked out of the way very quickly, going off to a wedding in Hawaii, and are only showing up as sort of like cutaway gags, cutaway scenes that the characters will talk about because Sonic's not supposed to be going on an adventure. He's just supposed to be relaxing at home. Marston and his wife do come into play later on in the film once they introduce Gunn and other human characters and other human threats, though it doesn't really play much into things. They're more of like just a side detour from Robotnik stuff that happens later on in the film. Yeah, I'm doing a lot of rambling because the film kind of bounces around a lot of different places. But yeah, it's Knuckles by Idris Elba is a very fun character. I'm usually not someone into stunt casting, into celebrity casting, but Elba as this completely oblivious Knuckles really emphasizes the character's roots as this very strong but very gullible person. The characters themselves, they are a lot of fun, though I do have to say I'm not a fan of the over-reliance on lore. As a lot of people who are part of this channel will say and realize, I would rather delve into character stuff than lore stuff. And the whole thing with the echidnas and the emerald stuff and his rivalry with Sonic seems more driven by his search for purpose and the connection with the emeralds at first. But what it really gets into is that both characters are being driven by trying to uphold some kind of legacy. Knuckles to his tribe and Sonic to Longclaw, the person that raised him. So we have these two characters who are trying to uphold the legacy of people that came before them, not being true quite to themselves, but once they realize who and what they are and come together, that's a lot of fun, and it's a lot more heart than I thought would be there. The story, the jokes, some are hit, some are missed. The ones that are hit are actually funny. The ones that are missed, at least there's another one coming pretty soon. Jim Carrey is his goofy, normal self. But honestly, most of his jokes seem to kind of just be there. He's kind of manic and all over the place, and for some reason, I don't know if I've changed, he's changed, or it's just bad writing for his jokes, but I got no real laughter out of his stuff. Tails being introduced as the little kid brother to Sonic is a very welcome introduction, and allowing Sonic to be on his own, allowing the video game characters to carry most of this story. And that's good. That is very good. The stunt work with the CGI is passable, but most of it's kind of just there. The whole problem with the no real weight to the characters is an issue, but when it's just the CG characters interacting, it's not as much of a problem. The music is all modern and none of it really hits, so this soundtrack is going to be very, very kind of just like tossed away. Wasn't great, wasn't bad, but it was something that I definitely say was a movie that I watched and I did not hate it. I would say that out of 5, I would give this a solid 3. Yeah, that's exactly where I would put that. So yeah, this is Keckers. That was Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.